Okay, before I officially start the meeting, a couple of short notes. First of all, a lovely lady moved into our community a couple of years ago, and unfortunately she's recently passed. I'm referring to Nikki Rosen, the wife of Mark Rosen, who lived right in the corner house of Waterford as you turn into the community. I also want to acknowledge that there's a wonderful woman missing this evening who I speak to almost every day of the year, Renee Budd. She's in the hospital, so Gary is taking over for her this evening, and we wish her a very speedy recovery. Just a safety issue. The board has been discussing dryer vent cleaning, and Robin has been working to get a price for the community. This is not a service that the community can be doing, but we encourage you to use either the trade because we got a negotiated price, or alternatively a supplier of your choice. It is a fire hazard, but you will also improve the usage of your energy bill. This Tuesday, if you could make a note, HIQ is coming around and we will be cleaning all of the mailboxes and lampposts. Over time, since we got rid of our maintenance person, they've gotten a bit dirty, so that will be done on Tuesday. I'm not sure if you saw the note in the newsletter or Lily's mail that she sent out, but the Polo Club is 35 million gallons of water over its usage. And let me suggest that there's no need to pick up the phone and say that my grass is dry, Jeff, what are you going to do about it? Because we have to cut back water usage, and that's just the way it's going to be until we get that under control. Bert is going to talk more about our financial situation. But I will say, as in previous years, we finished the year in a slight surplus of about $1,800 on an estimated budget of $379,000. So our focus of continuing to provide services, but trying to be fiscally responsible, is evidenced in the numbers. Now, before starting my formal presentation, I would ask, there are some new homeowners in the room, I assume. Has anybody moved in the last year? Could you stand up and introduce yourself to everybody, please?
I'm Barbara Gustin, and I'm Jim Gustin.
Welcome. Now, when I went through the directory, looking at the meeting today, I was somewhat shocked. I was shocked because I did a count of the number of people that have moved in since Susan and I moved into the community. And the number is 20. In the last 9 years, 20 homes have changed hands, which is just incredible. And our community is getting younger. Virtually everybody that's moving into the home is helping us increase our property values. Homes in the community now are selling for well in excess of $2.3 million. When Susan and I moved into the community, I can assure you the homes were selling for substantially less. I want to thank you all for coming to the meeting. It's appreciated. I want to thank Sharon and Penny for orchestrating the evening. And I want to offer a special thank you to my wife Susan, who tolerates all the time that I spend looking after this community, often wishing that I wasn't doing it or spending less time. One more special thank you. Okay, I guess I'm the one that sends out the newsletters and very visible going through the community, but there's somebody on the board, Bob Levin, who spends countless hours going through our legal documents, ensuring that we're compliant with the recent changes to Florida Statute 720. He saves us a lot of work, and his effort is very much appreciated. Now, we're doing something different today in that we are videotaping the meeting, not because I want to see what I look like on TV, but rather because we're going to have a lengthy discussion about painting today. not about paint colors, but about painting. And it's important to understand the process. So we're going to be putting this videotape up on the website for people that aren't here, and also for you, so that as we get close to painting and we keep sending out emails about things that you have to do, which I'll explain a bit tonight, you'll be able to go to the website, look at the video, fast forward the part that we're talking about now and get straight to the painting portion. So let's start the one other note. I will ask that you hold off all questions until I've finished my presentation. I've tried to anticipate many of the questions, and if I haven't covered it, then certainly by all means you can ask them. Firstly, I want to thank...
Can you press that thing down there?
You're not doing the presentation yet. You're after me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay? No. But you can do it instead of me. Firstly, the board, I want to thank them. For those of you who have watched the meetings, I think in every meeting I've said, I have an opinion, I have one vote. And I always follow the direction and the majority of the vote on the board. So we, for example, went through all the architectural guidelines at our last meeting because of Florida Statute 720. And without dwelling on it, because I know we have to go for DERVs, the statute basically means that we have to be very, very specific about what is allowed. There has to be very little flexibility. So for example, just to pick one, if a house were to burn down, the house has to be rebuilt in the same exterior structure, the same size as the existing lot. Somebody can't put up a limestone home or a granite home. We want to maintain the architectural integrity of the community. We talked about fences, and the board decided, I must confess, I wasn't entirely in favor of it, but I went with the majority of the board. And the board decided that we're not just going to have white spindle fences. If people want to put in the white fence with the black mesh that they have at Lakes of Sutton, we will allow that. Okay, but those are the only two fences that are allowed. So that's basically how we operate. We operate based on the documents and bylaws of the community, and sometimes you end up in a situation where you have to say no because it's not consistent with what we are trying to do in the community. Anyway, let's talk about our board goals. We always try to get the best value for our money. And what does that mean? It means that this year, for example, we've hired a different company to cherry pick and prune our trees prior to hurricane season, because we could save a couple of $1,000s. Okay, we got rid of the maintenance person that was costing $10,000 a year, and we're going to be paying, I forget the exact number, around $900 to HIQ to clean the mailboxes at the lampposts. This year, for the first time, we hired somebody to clean our garbage bins. Okay, we got the company down to $25 a house. Originally, they wanted $55 a house. And we'll be doing that twice a year from now on, and everybody was happy with the service. We operate in a very ethical and transparent manner, and that's very important. You're all invited to come to the board meetings. Everything that we do is on our website, summary of the board meeting minutes, our financial statements, our newsletters. You could go back for probably the last year and see everything that we have done. We try to keep you informed. Okay? We send out newsletters. I know you don't all read them because I get phone calls saying, what are we doing about this? And my answer is, did you get the newsletter? We try to be responsive to owner requests. Sometimes we're able to say yes, and unfortunately for the betterment of the community, sometimes we have to say no. We try to deal with short-term issues. What is an example of a short-term issue? Well, the last couple of years, we spent a fair amount of money treating the canary palm trees on the island because we knew they were sick. They died. Okay? We didn't come into the year, I didn't come down to Florida this year thinking we had to re-landscape the island. But when we did the landscaping on Champion, we had a plan that when those trees died, we had a landscaping plan in place. And from the comments that I've heard from not only people in the community, but from Polo residents as well, there's general consensus that we have the nicest entrance in Polo. We spend a lot of time ensuring that our documents comply with Florida Statute 720. That's a requirement from the state, and we have to spend money to do that. Last year we spent somewhere between $22,000 and $25,000 in order to make sure that happened. We want our owners to feel proud of living in Waterford, and I think most of you do. We try to maintain a positive cash flow. Last year we took our dues went up, I think, 2.9%, which was much lower than other communities in Polo, and certainly lower than Polo dues. As I mentioned, we finished the year with an $1,800 surplus on a budget of $380,000. And we completed the island landscaping without any assessment to our members. So, and we try to, and this is very important, so I want to dwell on this for a minute. There's a couple of responsibilities of the board. One is the fiscal responsibility, one is planning for the future. And planning for the future entails that you have members of the board that are prepared to step up and be the next generation of leadership in the club. And we had 5 people on the board and nobody was prepared to step up. So how do you solve that problem? You change your rules and increase the board from 5 to 7. And starting this year, okay, we will be training people that will have the ability to take over leadership, and maybe one day in the near future somebody else will be holding this microphone and asking some other questions. Anyway, let's talk now a bit about painting. Now, every year we do painting, it turns out to be a bit of a nightmare. And so, when we did painting 7 years ago, we used a company called ICL. And ICL was very difficult to do business with because you couldn't go to a store and buy the paint. You had to go through Crest. You had to find out from Crest which color that you used, and it was really generally an annoyance. So this year we decided we were going to use Sherwin-Williams. And they have a very good exterior paint, which should be better than what ICL offered. So what did we do? Well, we called Hartzell and we called the key sales representative for Sherwin-Williams, and we said, what do you recommend for a color palette for our community? Now, when I did this, okay, we didn't go around and think, well, what do the Koenigs want and what does somebody else want, because you have to look at what is in the best interest of the community. You can comment when I'm finished my presentation. So, you try to make everybody happy, but the reality of the situation is it's impossible. So Jeff Friedman did not make the decision on the color palette. I want to make that perfectly clear. The people here, in conjunction with Hartzell, in conjunction with Sherwin-Williams, selected the palette. So we had basically 4 grays, 4 shades of tannish colors. Now, here's where it gets complicated. The residents spoke very clearly in the last couple of years that they didn't want orange and they didn't want yellow. Hartzell and Isaac and Sherwin-Williams also felt that that was in the better interest of our community. Now, unfortunately, our lot lines are very close. So if you can imagine the exterior walls in your backyard, your neighbor having chocolate brown, and you having dark gray, nobody would be happy. So you have to pick a color palette that when you drive through the community, everything blends. And that's our goal. Okay, so I know Leslie has some questions. She doesn't like the colors. And I'll let her speak after my presentation. But again, I wanted to reemphasize that these colors were not selected by me, they were selected by the board. And just as we met when we talked about landscaping, some of you in this room were not in favor of doing the landscaping on Champion. And for the most part, All of those who were against it came up to me afterwards and said, you made the right decision. So you entrust the board, us, to make the decisions that are in the best interest of the community. And sometimes you just have to say no, and people aren't going to be happy with the answer. That's all I could say. Now, we hope to have the final colors, because they're not final yet, on display probably in the next 5 or 6 days. The problem is, when you pick a paint chip, and it's on a piece of paper, and you look at it, you think, oh, the color's very nice. Then you put it up on the wall, it doesn't look very nice. So years ago, as an aside, I was in the doing some home renovations, and I had a decorator working for me, and I used to say, why don't you go use the decorator to pick your color palette? Oh no, I don't need it. I said, well, why don't you go to Benjamin Moore and pick out the best colored paint? And I'll give you my wholesale price. I don't need that either. So one calls me over to the house and said, oh, your painter should have known. I said, well, what is it my painter should have known? Well, my kitchen and dining room aren't the same color. I said, well, the problem is, I took a flashlight, showed her the same color. I said, the problem is, if you use the decorator, she could have adjusted the paint color in the dining room so it looked the same as the kitchen, okay? Sometimes you just have to touch, believe in professionals who help you make the right decision. Anyway, once the colors are finalized, if your house is being painted a similar color to what you have now, there will be no charge. If, for example, you have a very dark color and you want it a light color, there will be a $500 charge. And let me explain. If you're unsure, okay, we've arranged with Hartzell to look at the sheet that you sent in, and there'll be a sample at the table when you sit down to eat. And Hartzell will come back and let you know if there's going to be a charge for the color that you select. So you don't have to worry, we'll notify you if there's going to be another charge. Now, this is very important. I don't want to... Some people in the community took the liberty of planting landscaping against their neighbor's wall without A or B permission. So, I can't reach as high as some of the landscaping that people put in, but suffice to say, it's impossible to paint the side of the house with the landscaping there. The landscaping is probably going to have to come down, depending on the width of the landscaping, or alternatively, it will be cut at the owner's expense, but there's no guarantee that that landscaping is going to survive the type of cutting that it requires. If your landscaping is the height, of your dividing wall, it will be trimmed. Now, Garden Leader has agreed at no additional cost to you, if they can trim it with their hand equipment, there'll be no extra charge. If they can't trim it with hand equipment, you will be notified of what the extra cost is. For the landscaping that is very low, it's not a problem. They can take a piece of 4x8 plywood, put it down against your landscaping, push it back, and the painting can be done. The other problem that we have is that some people have planted vines, and the vines have grown over the neighbor's wall. Vines put holes into the wall. Now there's an issue. If you don't paint your wall, it's going to look sort of ridiculous because your house is going to be one color, the wall's going to be a different color, but from a protection standpoint, replacing these walls is expensive. So you're far better off to remove the vines, paint the wall, and not have to go through in the future an expense of up to $20,000 to repaint a wall. You won't be very happy. Very importantly, awnings. Originally, the cost to remove an awning from Hartzell was $250. I got Hartzell to reduce the cost to $85. If you call somebody else in to remove the awning after you've painted. They're going to charge you to remove the awning, you have to repaint the front of your house. This is what I call an accurate generalization. There are no good-looking awnings in the community. They're all old. If you don't remove the awning for $85, the ARB is going to come along after your house is painted, and we're going to say you have to remove the awning. Then it's going to cost you $250 to remove the awning, and you're going to have to pay to repaint the front of the house. So I encourage everybody, this is not something that the board can demand, but the board strongly encourages you, remove the awnings. The homes will look better, and it'll certainly look better with the new awning. So please strongly consider removing your awning. Now, I'm almost finished. A couple of key points. Every year I stand up here and say, please, 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 please. Let us know who is responsible for your house. Let Crust know. So God forbid if there's something going on in your house, we know how to help you. Okay? Either if you've given a key to a neighbor or the code, but we had an incident one year where there was a water leak in the house, and I sat back there. The people were in Mexico. Fortunately, I was able to reach them. Anyway, you will get a form after the meeting detailing everything that I've talked about today regarding painting, and you will also have it on the website in addition to my comments. Road damage from trades. I drive around the community far too often asking trades not to park opposite each other on the street. I tag cars. This is an emergency. If somebody were to have a heart attack or there'd be a fire in the house, I would feel terrible if the emergency vehicle couldn't get through. So please, if you see trades, knock on your neighbor's door, say, could you please ask your trade not to park opposite another vehicle on the street. It's just a disaster waiting to happen. Regarding the ARB, I want to thank everybody. I mean, I really mean this. In previous years, we were sending out 35 to 40 letters for infractions. I sent out 4 letters this year. And I thank you all because it helps improve the curb appeal of our community. And we were one of the only communities when the ARB came around that had no infractions. Our annual dinner next year, if you want to make note, is here on February 26th. Now, I know Leslie's been patiently waiting to tell me why I need other colors, so I'll give her the microphone. Go ahead.
The reason why I'm unhappy with the colors is that those of you that have gray houses have a choice of 4 different colored shades of gray, going from light gray, medium gray, and dark gray. So you really have a choice of what you would like your house to be painted. Next, the people that chose their houses to be white, you have 3 different color whites, which is very unusual.
Can I just correct you?
Yes.
Go ahead.
No, you can correct me.
There are not 3 different colors of white according to Sherwin-Williams. Okay, we have 4 colors of gray, 4 colors of shade, the beige, 1 darker beige. We have a, Leslie, you can define whatever color you want. I encourage people to go to the community and look at the wall. But according to Sherwin-Williams and according to Hartzell, we have 4 color beiges from dark to light.
Well, I just want to, say something that Jeffrey just, said that I don't agree with. And that's the fact that my house, and I walked around the community, and most of the houses that are beige are on the dark side. I did not see, and I would like you to point it out to me if possible.
Number 6.
I saw number 6 and I didn't think it was dark enough. It's definitely not dark, it's definitely light, and all the beige that you have up there are very, very light. And I think it's very unfair that those of us who have lived in our homes for many years And I know I put up a new door, and my door has a dark brown frame, and the colors, and I put colors in my door, and they do not match the shades that you picked out in those colors. And I think you should take it into consideration for those of us that have beige, that you would walk around the community and you can see there is no comparison to the ones that have been selected and to the ones that we now have. Thank you.
Thank you for your opinion. I will say that we did have a dark brown